When Ellie Thompson stepped off the plane at the small airport in Asheville, North Carolina, the summer air hit her like a warm blanket. She stood there a moment, clutching her duffel bag, overwhelmed not by the heat, but by what this new chapter might hold. Only a week earlier, Ellie's life had unraveled. Her father, a once passionate jazz musician turned quiet bookstore owner, had passed away unexpectedly. Ellie, who had been teaching elementary art in Boston, received the call in the middle of a Friday lesson on Picasso. The news didn't feel real. Her dad had just texted her that morning about an old Miles Davis vinyl he'd found in a flea market. Grief didn't come with a guidebook, and it certainly didn't come with a clear plan. Returning to Asheville, the town where she'd spent summers as a kid, wasn't something Ellie had considered until now. But her father's lawyer said the bookstore, the Rusty Lantern, was now hers. And that's why she was here. Her best friend Taylor had offered to fly down with her, but Ellie declined. She needed to face this alone. The cab ride to the store was quiet. Ellie stared out the window at the familiar hills rolling past. So much had changed, yet as they pulled up to the old brick storefront on Elm Street, time seemed to rewind. The same weathered sign hung crooked above the door. The wind chime, made from old typewriter keys, still jingled with the breeze. Inside, it smelled like lemon polish, paper, and dust. Home. Ellie unlocked the door and stepped into her childhood. The store was tidy, with old wooden shelves that reached almost to the ceiling. A ladder on rails still squeaked the same way when you pushed it. She ran her fingers across the counter, pausing where she and her dad had carved their initials one summer afternoon, decades ago. E.T. and J.T. Ellie took a deep breath and sat behind the counter. There in the drawer she found it, a folded piece of lined notebook paper with her name on it. Ellie, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get to say goodbye the way I wanted to. First, know I'm okay. I had a good life, and I had you. You're the best part of all of it. She blinked back tears. The store is yours now. Do what you want with it. Keep it, sell it, turn it into a bakery. I won't haunt you, promise. But if you're willing, keep the light on a little longer. This place still has magic in it. Love you always, Dad. Ellie stayed in the apartment above the store that night. The place hadn't changed. Mismatched throw pillows, crooked bookshelves, and the record player still humming softly from the living room. She sat on the floor with a glass of iced tea and flipped through photo albums. Pictures of her as a toddler, reaching for picture books. Her dad, smiling in every photo. Even in black and white, his laughter felt like music. The next morning, Ellie opened the bookstore. At first, it felt surreal. She turned on the lights, wiped the windows, and waited. The bell above the door rang just before noon. A tall man in a denim jacket walked in. He looked like he belonged in a country band. "You must be Ellie," he said with a nod. "I'm Caleb. Your dad hired me a couple years back to help run things." Ellie shook his hand. "Thanks for keeping it going," he smiled. "He said you'd come back. He said the store would call you." Over the next few days, Ellie learned more than she expected. Not just about how to run the register or restock the shelves, but about her father's legacy. He had hosted local poetry nights, mentored high school writers, and created a scholarship fund for creative students. She'd had no idea. As days passed, Ellie found comfort in routine. Every morning, she opened the store, greeted customers, shared book recommendations, and every night, she'd retreat upstairs, letting the quiet hum of the small town soothe her. One evening, a little girl came in with her mother. The girl, maybe 7, clutched a crumpled dollar bill. "I want a book about dragons," she said seriously. Ellie smiled. "I know just the one." She reached for a worn paperback called The Fire Within. Her dad used to read it to her when she was little. She handed it to the girl, whose eyes lit up like she'd just been handed treasure. Moments like that reminded Ellie why this place mattered. She decided to stay. But not everyone supported her decision. Her cousin Marissa, who worked in real estate in Charlotte, called to urge her to sell the store. "You're wasting time in a dead town," Marissa had said. "You could start a life in the city." But Ellie wasn't ready to leave. She was just starting to understand who her father really was, and in turn, who she might become. One evening, while reorganizing the back storage room, Ellie found a box labeled Letters. Inside were hundreds of envelopes, all addressed in her father's neat handwriting. Each one contained a letter he had written but never sent. Some to her, some to her mother, who'd passed away when Ellie was just 5. Some to himself. She spent hours reading them. They were honest, raw, sometimes funny, often heartbreaking. In one letter, he wrote, "I don't know how to raise a daughter without her mother, but I do know how to love her." That night, Ellie cried more than she had in years, but they were healing tears, not the kind that leave you shattered, but the kind that put your pieces back in place. Over the next few months, Ellie transformed the rusty lantern. She kept the soul of the store, but added her own touches. A children's corner with beanbags, a monthly book club, a wall where locals could post their poems or short stories. And the community responded. Business grew, people gathered, and Ellie, once adrift, found purpose. Caleb became a close friend. He was kind, steady, and thoughtful, never pushing, always supporting. On Sundays, they'd have breakfast at Rosie's Diner and talk about life, books, and music. He shared stories of his own loss. His father, a firefighter, had died in the line of duty. It was through that shared grief that they found understanding. One autumn afternoon, Ellie hosted a storyteller's night. Locals came to share personal tales. Funny, sad, inspiring. Near the end of the evening, a teen girl named Jordan stepped up. She told a story about losing her brother in a car accident and how reading books from the rusty lantern helped her feel less alone. Afterward, Jordan hugged Ellie and whispered, "Thank you for keeping this place alive." That night, Ellie walked out onto the store's small rooftop patio, looked up at the stars, and whispered, "Thank you, Dad." She finally understood. Loss isn't just about absence. It's about transformation. The people we love never truly leave. They live in the choices we make, the kindness we share, and the lives we touch. A year later, the Rusty Lantern was more than a bookstore. It was a sanctuary, a space for healing, for growing, for dreaming. And Ellie? She was no longer the girl who ran from grief. She was the woman who turned it into something beautiful,